We're here to talk about assignment one. So we're going to talk about this for about 20-ish minutes, because you'll probably have a bunch of questions. What is assignment one? Assignment one is an assignment where we're asking you to build a word ladder in C++. And what a word ladder is, we'll get to it here, it is where you take a word and you try and get to another word by only modifying one letter at a time. But each intermediate word you have needs to be a valid word. So say I say to you, can you get from the word code to the word data? Code, well, you change the O to an A, then you change the D to a T, then you change the C to a D, and then you change the E to an A. And all of these three words in the middle are valid words, right? They're real words. If you can find a path from word A to word B via a series of valid words, then you have a word ladder. Sometimes there's multiple ways to get through it. So for instance, if you go from work to play, there's many ways you can get there. Lots of different paths, if you will. So that's what a word ladder is. And this assignment is asking you to essentially write the code that will find word ladders between two different words. Most of this assignment relies on knowledge that we teach you in week 1 and week 2. Though I honestly think you can easily start this weekend, and yeah, I don't think I think you can make reasonable headway. And a lot of what we talk about in week 2 are just explaining concepts that you can easily Google as well, like it's just putting them in context. So don't feel handicapped to finish this. Blah, 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 blah. We're going to expect you to use things like standard vector, standard queue, standard unordered set, which we just talked about, to build it, which is good. And essentially, the core of it, this assignment is asking you to write a function. And that function is a function called generate, which will take in a starting word, a finishing word, and a lexicon. And what's a lexicon? It's like a bunch of words. It's a bunch of valid words. It's like all the valid words in the English language, right? That's what it is. And we want you to try and do a breadth first search, which you know because 2521's a prereq. 2511's a prereq. CSE keeps changing everything. Anyway, we want you to do a breadth first search, which is not a very complicated algorithm. And most of you would have been exposed to it. If you haven't, then, well, I don't want to say it's my fault, but doesn't matter whose fault it is. We'll help you out. But if you could try and go from work to play with all these valid words, doing a breadth first search. Now, this kind of gets into how to go about it, right? It's like, okay, well, a word ladder is a shortest path problem. Because, like, you can take an English, like, conceptually, you can take, I'll try and maybe do this one in Paint. I've still got Paint open. Great. You might have a word here like dog. And then dog, there's also cog, and dag, and bog, right? And these are all connected like in a graph. Oh, 2521's a prereq for 2511. Great. Thank you. That's good. I can't keep up. I'm very thrilled to hear that. And then from bog you might have, bog also goes to cog, right? Like, bog also goes to cog, and then you have another word like bow, yeah, like that. And you could actually build the entire kind of English set of words as a big graph with nodes and edges. And then when I ask you to give me a word ladder from cog to bow or bow, is that a homonym? Is that what they call it? Anyway, bow to bow, it's actually just like searching a graph. So you're essentially just breadth first searching a graph to get there, right? You're like, oh, I've got to go to cog, and then I've got to go to dog, and then bog, and then I'm there, or cog, and then bog, and then I'm there. And it's like, oh, okay, that's the shortest path, like here. So, very simple search problem, because there's all the edges are the same weight. It's just like simple graph, breadth first search. You could make it faster by doing some things. But yeah, it's a breadth first search. You build the English language. You build the English language. You build all of the English words or the lexicon, right? It's whatever we give you. You build it all as a graph. You search the graph. So starting point, ending point, search the graph. There's your word ladder. There might be multiple answers. So conceptually, it's a very, very straightforward assignment. It's a bit of a fun assignment because you can get what you have to do like that, and then it's hard to solve, right? And they're kind of more fun assignments than just having to do a lot of work. A very, very capable student who is familiar with C++ could probably do this in, I don't know, like not long. It's like, maybe an hour max. Most of this is to get you familiar with the language, the C++ language. The actual problem itself is kind of like it's easy enough if you do it every day, but you're probably like me, like you're not very, you're not like a prodigy, so you'd be like, oh, what's a graph, and then you got to figure that out, and then you try and code it. So it's, for most of you, it's going to be like a nice little challenge, nothing earth shattering, but just a nice little challenge to warm you into the course. There's some more content here that I won't go through in exceptional detail. Basically, they talk about cycle checking, because that's like one hard thing about searching is like you don't want to get caught in cycles in graphs, right? Because you don't want to say, oh, cog is dog, and then dog is bog, and then bog is cog, and then cog is dog, and then dog is bog, and then bog is cog, and then cog is dog. That's definitely going to be one of my top 5. I hope no one takes a 5-second snippet of that. So you have to do some kind of cycle checking as well. So when you're searching, you will need to kind of store some sense of history. And I'm trying not to give away too much because, that's part of what the assignment is to figure these things out. If there are multiple shortest paths, you must return all solutions, and the solutions must be sorted in lexicographical order. So they actually need to be sorted. And what that means is, you notice here how F is before P, which is before W, and then of all the ones that are P, it's like these are all alphabetically sorted, so you have to return these alphabetically. Be careful of that, because in the last term, a lot of students lost at least 1 mark, like lost at least 5 to 8% just because they missed that part, so be very careful of that. Make sure they're sorted lexicographically. Yep, we give you lots of hints about the particular C++ data structures to use. And yeah, the actual task itself, I mean, this stuff here is just more like, this isn't like stages, like stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. This is more like, here's some helpful advice to go about it, which is probably like, do the week 1 shoot, design some tests, write the algorithms and stuff. That's really pretty straightforward. And I might jump down here because someone's asked, do we need to write tests? You do need to write tests. This assignment's worth 15% of the grade in the course. 50% of those marks come from auto marking. We mark the correctness of your code by running your code through an auto marker and seeing if you got the right outputs. 25% of your mark comes from writing tests using catch 2. And we want you to write these tests in the test directory. That's where we'll look for them. We want you to write as many tests as you feel that you need to ensure that your code is correct. We will mark your tests based on, are your tests correct? As in, do they actually test your code correctly? The tutor will look at them too and be like, does this make sense? We'll mark your test coverage. This is for those, again, who... The problem is, because I teach 1531, you hear me and you hear me say coverage and you think like pie coverage, but this is going to be your tutor just looking at your tests and being like, have they covered all the test cases? Very visual. Brittleness, which is that we want you to make sure you aren't breaking abstraction, as in your tests should be black box tests. They should only be calling generate and stuff. They shouldn't be like looking at the graph you generate or anything like that. That's nearly free marks, honestly. And then clarity, which is, have you commented it correctly? Have you explained it correctly? Is it laid out logically? And all of that. And we do expect you to pass your own tests as well. 20% of the marks come from C++ best practices. These are things like using const when you should. These are things like using auto, references, um, not using C-style arrays, avoiding pointers, just all these little things that we talk about with lectures. Like if you've been going to the tutes and going to the lectures and listening, then it's pretty easy to like do this. Because tutors will look for mistakes, right? They're not looking for perfect things, they're just looking for mistakes. Like, are you using 4i counter loops instead of 4 range loops, right? Which are better and cleaner and more obvious as to what's happening. And then the last thing, 5% is for Clang format, basically style. But what's cool about this course, and I'll show you this will be sick, is that what we actually have given you is you can run this on CSE machines, where if you get one of your C++ files, right, and you go Clang format 11, and then you give it the file name, which in this case is demo110, what this program does is it actually takes your program and it essentially like lints it and reformats it to the correct style. And if you do the -i, it will not just print it out, it'll actually update the file. So in this case here, you can see there's a tab there. So for instance, if I do something like this and I save it and then I run it, it will automatically style my code. So we give you 5% because it's so easy. We don't want to give you much for it. But essentially, we will run Clang format on your files. And if we see Clang format pick up on any problems, then you'll lose that 5%. So it's totally automated. But yeah, that's it. That's where the style comes from. So people ask me like, oh, you're going to mark like indentation and like, stuff like that. And it's like, no, we're not going to mark indentation because we're going to run Clang format on it, which will do it for us. So as long as your code like kind of passes Clang format, you're sweet. So back to the spec. Don't plagiarize, we'll run plagiarism checking on everything. There's always someone who does it. There's always someone who does it. Don't be that person who gets 0. The assignment's due on Friday of week 3 at 8 p.m. I get this all the time. Someone's like, oh, blah, blah, blah. Why is it not due on... Like, we don't want it to be due any later because we can't... Like, we could always make it due in week 10, but we're giving you 2.5 weeks with this. It's really hard to support the forum on the weekend. And whenever we make things due on a Sunday night or a Monday morning, you guys don't start it, frankly. Like, those of you who will submit this late and really want another week are the ones who won't start it until you absolutely can't not anymore. And they're the ones who need all the help on the weekend. So we like things being due on a Friday, which still gives you 2 whole weekends, by the way, 2 entire weekends, because we can actually then help you in the lead up to it being due. So that's why it's due on a Friday. It's due at 8 p.m. You can always submit it before that. The late penalty is 2% off the max every hour. 2% off the max, so that means if you submit it at midnight, the max is 92%. And yeah, Jin says, will we have some auto tests? No, you don't really need auto tests because you have your own tests. Like, auto tests wouldn't achieve anything because you can just run your own tests. We're not like, this is a level 6 course. This isn't 1511 where we give you a dry run or something like that. You know, we expect you to be able to test your own code and read a specification. You're all big adults now, and I believe in you to rise to the occasion of being, you know, not children. Couple of other notes here. You're going to want to use an unordered set to keep track of lexicons. Yes, the English dictionary will be provided. You're going to want to use unordered map or you're going to want to use some of these data structures we've talked through today, right? You won't have to use anything super crazy. Yeah, you can use Clang format 11 for your assignment. Absolutely. Yeah, totally. Most of this is pretty self-explanatory, or we've explained it before. I guess a couple of notes here that you can add more tests, so you can make more test files. We give you instructions about how to add more test files. I'll usually get the question, should we add everything in one test file or should we create many test files? The answer to that is, what do you think makes more sense? We're giving you marks for clarity, not the number of files. So maybe you think one file makes a lot more sense. Maybe you think 30 files makes a lot more sense. We just expect you to apply common sense. And if you get that wrong, we'll tell you. The most important thing here is measuring your, well, not the most important. Another important thing here is measuring your performance. So each time we run a test on your code, right, each word ladder we run, we'll put a 15-second time limit on it. That means we expect on the CSE machines that every single test, every single generate function call can pass within 15 seconds. This will not impact you much because most word ladders are trivial to generate. The harder word ladders take longer. This is a searching problem, which means it is an NP complete problem, which means that it is an exponential problem. It's not like, so the hard word ladders, you will have to think smarter about your code. You will have to think about your algorithms. You will have to think about references. You'll have to think about if you can use more data structures to speed it up, right? There is no memory limit because generally speaking, 15 seconds will, like, there is no memory limit except for the server itself. Like, so I don't want to have someone be like, you didn't impose a memory limit, and me be like, your program tried to use 2 gigabytes of RAM. Like, I don't know what you want me to tell you. Like, your program should use less than a gigabyte of RAM. Okay, that's like, you know, if you're using that much RAM, you've done something terrible. So there is no like hard memory limit except what the server will tolerate, which is the size of the server. You can benchmark your own code by following these instructions here. I added this myself. Your code will run slower when it's in debug mode. We will test it in release mode. So you can change this on VS Code. You can build Target. That's meant to be target, I'm sorry. And then you can just like follow these instructions to actually see how long it takes, right? And you can do that on the CSE machines to benchmark. We don't care how long it takes on your computer. We care how long it takes on the CSE machine. 5 minutes. The only other thing I think I want to just show you is cloning it and running it. So let's clone it quickly into VLab, and then we can look at it together. I'm just going to close this. So you can clone your own repo here. _1. Go inside it. Open up VS Code. Should configure okay, I think. Yep, you can pick 6771. Bam. Does its configuring. Cool. Now, a couple of key files to notice. You'll notice that all of your tests are inside this word ladder folder here. Let me just make this slightly bigger. There's actually a test we've written here called benchmark, which is the hardest word ladder. So you can actually run this test just to see what the hardest word ladder out there is. So if you can do this one in 15 seconds, then you're fine with all the test cases. This one's hard though. Like 80% of you probably won't. I don't know. I'm just making up a number, but like probably more than half of you won't get this under 15 seconds, and that's totally okay. Because it's like the very hardest one. I remember NP complete problems like rocket up. So like literally the problem that's like one character less than this will be like 10 times quicker. So don't beat yourself up about it. And you can write more tests here. Like we've written a sample test for you from at to it, just to get you started. Pretty straightforward. The actual source folder contains a few things. It contains your word ladder file, which you have to implement. This is where you're going to do most of your work. It contains a lexicon file, which you will use in your word ladder. This one is written for you. It basically takes a file path and it opens a lexicon. It opens the file and it returns a unordered set of strings. So you see here how it's a function that takes in a file path and it returns an unordered set of strings. So basically turns a dictionary file, which is here english.txt, and it turns it into an unordered set of strings for you. So that's something you don't have to do, which is super helpful. And then we also have this other file here called debugging main. I added this for everyone last year because I think one thing I learned is just students at the start of this course don't feel comfortable testing stuff early on with tests. Like, you just want to feel it, like you just want to play with it. So this is where you can play around with it. I've written some comments here as well. So you open the lexicon, you generate the word, you get the outputs. Like, so the environment's quite set up for you to go. The only thing probably to really take note of that's different is in this course, the way we've set up the environment is .h files actually exist inside this include folder here. Like this. So this is where the .h file basically is. It's inside include / COMP6771 / wordladder.cpp. Yep. That's really it. So word ladder includes word ladder 8, and that's the .h file. We all know what .h files are. Kai says, are we going to cover namespaces? We will cover namespaces next week. They're pretty quick to learn yourself too, and again, as I've said, this is a level 6 course, so we do expect you to be able to do some basic Googling and figure some things out. Like, we're not going to tell you everything, so in the meantime, don't sit around being like, oh, I don't know what a namespace is, I can't do anything. It's like, just go Google it and you'll find the answer, and we'll try and teach you where we can. The very nature of this and trimesters is we kind of have to have you teach yourself a couple things early on maybe, but you can definitely start this assignment. I would definitely try and start it this weekend, because then at least you'll know what you don't know for next week, and then you can finish it the following weekend. I think that's it. 7:54. Any other questions? Otherwise we'll wrap up. I mean, I know you'll have more questions about this, and we can talk about it next week in week 3. It's not due for 2.5 weeks, but this is kind of the overview to get you started. Do you have access to the CSE labs? Oh, I don't know. Probably. I guess so. There's probably some time limits on them though. I don't know. You could probably, I mean, Kai probably knows. He's in the chat. I mean, I know Kai's not in the country, but I'm sure you know. Or you know who to email. I'm sure someone knows. No discard. What does that do? This is in week 4 lectures, and my brain's just forgotten off the top of my head. I'm sure I could just Google it, but I should know this off the top of my head. It doesn't mean anything really. Is called from a discarded value expression. Oh, my brain's shutting down. I'm on edge. I'm not sure. I mean, I do know. I just this is in a lecture that I haven't thought about for a year, so I'm sure someone else knows. Yeah, no. So the assignment's getting released right after. I'll deploy it. I'll deploy it immediately after the lecture. I was going to do it before the lecture, but my Tuesdays are a bit cooked, so. Anyway, let's not get caught up on that. We'll talk about that in week 4. It's really not important, actually. It's just a really small detail. But in general, you're going to have to modify wordladder.cpp and some test files. If you're not sure where to start, you can just literally copy and paste this, paste it in here, and then implement the functions, because .h files are just prototypes. So there's one function there, read lexicon, and here's another function here, generate, and get going. That's it. Start writing some code. Pretty simple. Cool. Okay. Well, thanks everyone. I hope you have a great night. I'll talk to you next week. I'll send you a notice later in the week, around the weekend, with a bit of some updates and some reminders. And push the assignment out now. So have a great night. Oh wait. Sorry. Okay. Oh my god. Before you leave, I mean, no one's left. Maybe someone's left, but I forgot to do this on Monday, and I was hitting myself. But there's a QR code here, which I would love for you to scan with your phone if you get a chance, because every lecture I do, and it'd be great if you could fill this out once or twice, but every lecture I do, I'm going to try and put this up at the end so that I can get some feedback from you, so that like next term and stuff, when I look at these lectures, I can actually like figure out, you know, which ones people liked, which ones people didn't like, etc. So if you're feeling really lazy, just do the one for the C++ basics lecture, which was today. Don't worry about the previous ones. That's just my mistake. But yeah, just it's a really quick survey. It's like bam bam. You don't even have to leave comments. I don't really care if you leave comments. Just like give it a rating. And I don't actually know what the link is. Oh, actually I do. I'm sorry. I don't know why I said that. I'll send the link in the chat. It's a QR code, because if I send the link in the chat, people watching the recording can't access it, etc. So, and I know most of you are millennials with phones in your hands all the time. The funny thing is, some of you are such millennials that you have your goddamn phone in your hand while you're watching this somehow, you maniacs. But that's okay. I don't need everyone to fill it out. It's not compulsory. It helps if like 10% of people fill it out, because it gives me a general sense. Anyway, thank you again. I'll say bye for the second time. Have a great evening.